Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
Welcome in, everyone. Today, we're taking a deep dive into 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini.
Oh, such a powerful book.
It really is. It takes us to Afghanistan and tells a story of two women, Mariam and Laila.
Yeah, their lives are just intertwined with all this societal and political upheaval. It's incredible.
And we're going to explore all of that today. The resilience, the friendships, the love, the survival.
All against a backdrop of such a turbulent period in Afghanistan's history.
Exactly. And what's amazing is we're going to do it by looking directly at the book itself.
So we can really get into the nitty-gritty of Hosseini's writing.
Yes, his prose is just breathtaking. We'll get to experience his storytelling firsthand, those scenes that just pull you in.
The way he captures the emotions, the details of their lives, their world, it's remarkable.
Right, so let's start with Mariam. She's introduced to us as this young girl longing for her father, Jalil.
You know, it's such a poignant start to the story. She lives in this tiny kolba.
Yeah, a traditional Afghan mud house.
Isolated with just her mother, and all she wants is to be with her father, this wealthy, influential figure in Herat.
But he's kept separate from her life because of societal norms.
It's heartbreaking, really. He visits her every week, brings her gifts, tells her stories.
But you can feel that those visits only make her long for him even more.
They emphasize what she's missing, you know?
Absolutely. There's this one detail that just gets me every time. She holds her breath as he leaves, bargaining with God for more time with him.
Oh, yeah, it's such a powerful image. It speaks volumes about her yearning, the sense of loss.
And it foreshadows the recurring themes of yearning and loss that play out throughout her life.
Definitely. And it also highlights the complexities of Afghan society at the time, the stigma surrounding children born out of wedlock.
They're called harami, right?
Yes, literally meaning illegitimate. It's a label that shapes Mariam's entire existence.
It's a constraint imposed by society, something she carries with her from the very beginning.
And then Jalil decides to marry her off to Rashid, this much older shoemaker in Kabul.
Oh, man. Talk about a life-altering event.
It's a huge turning point, and I think it really underscores the theme of patriarchal tradition that runs throughout the novel.
Essentially, she's forced into a life she didn't choose.
A victim of societal expectations and her father's desire to protect his own reputation.
It's a stark reminder of the limited choices women faced in Afghanistan during that period.
Precisely. So Mariam leaves the familiar, albeit isolating world of her kolba,
And she enters this new world, Kabul.
a vibrant city, bustling with life, at least that's how it's described.
But for Mariam, it becomes a place of confinement.
Yeah, because she's now under Rashid's control.
And remember, he's much older than her, set in his ways.
Immediately, he starts imposing his strict traditional rules.
He forces her to wear the burqa, isolates her from the outside world.
And any hopes she had of building a family are crushed by multiple miscarriages.
You really start to see how these events, one after the other, solidify her subservient role in their marriage.
It's a gradual process, but so impactful. You know, what's interesting is that you can almost draw a parallel between the increasing restrictions within Mariam's own household.
Oh, tell me more about that. I'm curious to see how those connect.
Well,
Hold that thought. We'll pick up right there in the next part of our deep dive into 1,000 Splendid Suns.
as Mariam's life with Rashid is becoming, more and more restricted, Afghanistan itself is going through a period of huge upheaval.
Oh, totally. Those were tumultuous times, with the rise of the Mujahideen and the conflict with the Soviets.
And then later, of course, the emergence of the Taliban.
Right. I can only imagine how all of that must have impacted daily life, especially for women like Mariam.
Absolutely. And Hosseini does a fantastic job of portraying these shifts. The Kabul that Mariam first encountered, that vibrant city, gradually transforms into a place governed by stricter and stricter interpretations of Islamic law.
Particularly under the Taliban, right?
Exactly. And that's when the burqa, which Rashid had already imposed on Mariam in his own household, becomes mandatory for all women.
It's like her personal world is mirroring the larger societal changes happening around her.
It is. It's really fascinating how he connects those two. And then into all of this comes Laila.
Ah, Laila,
Yeah.
a young, educated woman who becomes Rashid's second wife.
Yeah, imagine having your world turned upside down by war, losing your family, and then
Being forced into a marriage like that.
exactly, with a man who represents everything you've come to fear.
It's such a stark contrast, right? Layla, who represents this more modern, progressive view of Afghan women, is suddenly thrust into this incredibly traditional and patriarchal household.
And of course, that creates a lot of tension.
I bet.
Initially, there's a lot of resentment and competition between Layla and Mariam. They're both vying for Rashid's attention, trying to find some sense of normalcy in this crazy world.
But as Rashid's abuse escalates, their dynamic begins to shift.
Yeah, this is where I think the novel's exploration of female friendship becomes so powerful. They go from rivals to allies, united by their shared suffering.
It's that classic, the enemy of my enemy is my friend scenario.
Kind of, but it goes deeper than that. There's this specific scene where Mariam steps in to defend Layla from Rashid's violence.
Oh, wow.
And that becomes a turning point in their relationship. It's like those protective instincts that were maybe dormant within Mariam, maybe stemming from her longing for a child of her own, are suddenly awakened by Layla's presence.
So their shared trauma, their shared experience of suffering becomes the catalyst for this deep bond.
Exactly. And it really challenges us to think about how we define family. Mariam, who never had children of her own, becomes a mother figure to Layla's daughter, Aziza.
Right, Aziza, Layla's daughter with Tariq, her childhood sweetheart.
Yeah, and this little girl becomes a symbol of hope and love amidst all the darkness.
Speaking of Tariq, I'd love to hear more about his relationship with Layla. It seems like such a stark contrast to the marriages we see in the novel, which are so often characterized by control and abuse.
Oh, absolutely. Layla and Tariq's love story is this beautiful counterpoint. It represents freedom, choice, things that Mariam never experienced.
Their youthful romance, all those stolen glances and secret meetings, embodies the hope for a different Afghanistan.
A place where love can flourish without constraint.
But of course, their story is also filled with loss and separation. The war tears them apart, and Layla believes for a long time that Tariq is dead.
It's another layer of tragedy in their lives. But it's through these juxtapositions, the interplay of love, loss, and resilience, that Hosseini captures the complexities of the human experience,
Yeah, he doesn't shy away from portraying the harsh realities of war, the brutality of the Taliban.
Or the difficult choices people have to make to survive.
And we see how those choices impact both Mariam and Layla. They endure incredible hardships, but they find ways to cope, to protect the people they love.
And even to create moments of joy amidst all the turmoil. It's incredible.
They have this remarkable resilience.
Even when faced with the most dire circumstances, they never give up hope. They find strength in each other, in their bond, and in those small acts of defiance that allow them to retain some sense of agency in a world where they have so little control.
Hosseini uses such vivid imagery and emotionally charged language to draw us into their world. I'm thinking of that scene where Layla and Mariam witness the public execution of those two men accused of adultery.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a tough one.
The horror, the fear, the injustice. It's a stark reminder of the Taliban's brutality.
And the constant threat of violence that hangs over their lives.
It's not just physical danger, it's psychological too.
Right, the constant fear, the uncertainty, the erosion of their basic human rights. It weighs on the characters and the reader as well.
And yet, even amidst all of that, we still see these little glimmers of light, of hope.
Mariam and Layla find solace in small acts of rebellion, sharing stories, tending to their garden, creating this haven of normalcy within their home.
It's a testament to the human spirit.
Finding beauty and connection even in the most dire of circumstances.
They carve out these spaces of joy and love, reminding us that even amidst suffering, there's still potential for resilience, for resistance.
Absolutely. Before we get to the ending of the book, which I know we're both eager to discuss,
I want to take a moment to hear from you, our listeners. What are your thoughts so far? What's resonated with you most about Mariam and Layla's journey? What questions do you have as we head toward the climax of their story?
Okay, so the ending of 1,000 Splendid Suns. How do we even begin to talk about it?
It's heavy,
Yeah.
It really brings together all the struggles and sacrifices we've seen throughout the story.
But there's also this glimmer of hope, right?
There is, but it's definitely not a fairy tale ending.
No, it's not.
I think it speaks to the cyclical nature of history, particularly in Afghanistan. There's tragedy, but there's also the potential for renewal.
And without giving too much away for those who haven't read it,
Yeah, no spoilers.
we see Mariam making this huge decision.
A monumental decision.
One that changes everything for her, for Layla, and for Layla's children.
It really showcases the depth of her love, her strength.
And it's so interesting how Hosseini ties her personal sacrifice to the broader political situation. Yeah, her act of defiance becomes a symbol of resistance against the forces that have controlled her life.
And the lives of so many others.
Exactly.
Oh.
But even though it's a hard ending, there's still that glimmer of hope in Layla's return to Kabul.
Her determination to rebuild, to create a better future.
And that's where I think the real power of Hosseini's writing lies. He shows us the harsh realities, the pain, the loss.
But he also reminds us of the resilience of the human spirit.
The enduring hope for a brighter tomorrow.
It makes me think about the title, A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Oh, yeah.
It evokes this sense of beauty and resilience even amidst all the darkness.
Each sun is like a moment of defiance, a spark of hope, an act of love that shines through the shadows.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish it.
It really does.
It makes you think about love, sacrifice, and the incredible strength of the human spirit.
And it's had such a significant cultural impact.
Absolutely. It started conversations about women in Afghanistan, challenging those preconceived notions about Muslim women in general.
Right. It reminds us that behind all the headlines, the political stuff, there are real people with their own stories.
Their own dreams, their own battles.
And sometimes hearing those individual stories can help us understand a culture, a country, in a way that news reports just can't.
It encourages empathy.
It invites us to see the world through someone else's eyes.
To understand their struggles, celebrate their triumphs.
Oh, it's a powerful thing.
So if our deep dive into A Thousand Splendid Suns has resonated with you, we encourage you to explore further.
Definitely read Hosseini's other works, learn more about Afghanistan, or look into organizations supporting women in conflict zones.
There's so much out there to discover.
And remember, the story of Afghanistan, like the stories of Mariam and Laila, is still being written.
It's a story filled with complexity, challenges, and that enduring hope.
For sure.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you've gained some new insights and are inspired to keep exploring the power of stories.
To connect us, challenge us, and illuminate the shared human experience.
Until next time, keep those aha moments coming.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of BookerCast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.